Hello and welcome to theFARS, the fucking awesome review show. My name is Justin and today I want to talk about Jurassic World. When the trailer for Jurassic World came out, I was actually excited to go see Chris Pratt ride a motorcycle beside some sprinting velociraptors. I thought, oh, maybe this movie has some cool ideas and it'll be good.
This is a product. It's not a movie. It was, much like the dinosaurs in Jurassic Park, cooked up in a lab by people who wanted to get a lot of people to show up and pay a lot of money to make the investors happy. And it's a failure because it doesn't attempt to be a movie in any sense of the word, other than the fact that it had some dinosaurs in it.
It really is a difficult thing to try and come up with a fourth installment to the Jurassic Park franchise. The first Jurassic Park already told the absolute best story you could ever hope to tell in that world.
My question was, is there somebody leading the charge that's telling this story because it's a good story, not just because it's like something that everyone's gonna go buy?
I'm honestly not sure that there was, Chris. The characters and story in this film are by far its biggest problems, and I'm going to pitch to you guys what I think would have made a better Jurassic World movie.
Maybe your best course would be to tread lightly.
As the movie stands right now, the story hinges on one important element.
If there was a theme park where the attractions were dinosaurs that had been around for a decade or so, I mean, would people really be into dinosaurs?
Oh, I've seen a T-Rex. I've seen the Triceratops. I don't want to see this anymore.
Would their interest be able to be sustained for that long?
Bullshit. You would think that a canyon in Arizona wouldn't be able to hold people's interest either, right? Well, in 2005, Grand Canyon National Park reported 4.4 million visitors. A decade later, that number had risen to 5.5 million. And the Grand Canyon doesn't even have rides. Disney's Magic Kingdom brought in 20 million visitors last year, also seeing growth since 2005. But just for argument's sake, let's take Claire at her word when she says,
let's be honest, no one's impressed by a dinosaur anymore.
Really? Because all these kids riding baby Triceratops might disagree with you. These kids seem to be having a great time watching the T-Rex. In fact, this park looks pretty packed to me. There isn't an empty seat in the bleachers for the Mosasaurus show.
Fewer and fewer people are coming to the park because, you know, dinosaurs have been around for 20 years. They're not that cool anymore.
No, you can't tell me people aren't coming to the park and then show me a full park.
Do not feed me a shit and call it couscous, Jafar.
So how could it be better? Well, first we have to decide who our main character is. For my version, I'm going with a female protagonist.
And I am Claire.
No, sorry. I don't mean Claire Deering. No, Claire is perfectly boring in every way. Instead, let's go for a much more interesting choice. Someone who is already connected to the Jurassic Park story at large, Lex fucking Murphy. Bryce Dallas Howard could still play her, I guess, but why not Ariana Richards? She's still around and in the acting scene from time to time, and personally, I think she looks better next to Chris Pratt, who we will be keeping. It's now 20 years after the events of the first film. Lex has grown up, she's been to the best schools, and more importantly, the best psychiatrists. Years of therapy have improved her condition, but she still suffers from PTSD due to Jurassic Park. At the beginning of the film, she is arriving at Jurassic World to sign the final papers to sell the park. Her grandfather finally saw his dream a reality, an open and functional dinosaur park. Sadly, he has now passed and left the park to his eldest grandchild, Lex. Lex obviously wants nothing to do with the park and is only here to sign the papers. The buyer is an asshole. He knows about her PTSD. He's one of the only people in the world that can afford to buy the place, and one of his stipulations is that she meet him at the park in person to give her signature. When Lex arrives, she is greeted by a friendly face, BD Wong. They catch up and he talks briefly about how proud her grandfather was of the success of the park. Now this is where the two brothers come in. These kids are our B story. Basically, they are our vehicle to see the park in action, and in the end they'll learn something about the value of staying together and their brotherly love towards one another, whatever. And their parents are not relevant. We don't need to know about the divorce to feel for these kids. They're running for their lives from prehistoric predators. That should be enough. And the brothers are not related to our female protagonist. They don't need to be, and they shouldn't be.
Am I right? Am I right?
We cut to Lex meeting Chris Pratt's character Owen, who will stay mostly the same. Owen tells Lex he believes the raptors can have a bond with a human and that a human could even act as their alpha. Well, Lex also has some first-hand experience with raptors. So this would put her and Owen at odds with each other. And now we don't even need Vincent D'Onofrio's character because he's superfluous. Owen can talk about the military's interest in using raptors in the field. Not that he believes in it 100% himself, but he's not taking it off the table as an option. And now we've created some great opportunities for some real, believable tension between these two characters. Instead of what we got, which was two characters force-feeding us their dating history.
What kind of a man shows up to a date in board shorts?
Does anyone really believe that these two characters would actually go out on a date? Anyway, we see the brothers in the park, they're going to different rides, they're totally having a great time. After that, we need a dinner scene. Let's get to know these characters a bit more.
My biggest challenge in any movie is making the humans feel real and people that you can recognize and like someone you know. And I think if we can do that, then you're gonna care whether or not they get eaten.
We've got Lex, Owen, Dr. Wu, the buyer, and a Verizon investor sitting at a table. Dr. Wu tells them of plans to combine dinosaurs for new attractions. The buyer loves it. He says, bigger and better. And the Verizon investor will give him the line from the movie,
Verizon Wireless presents the Indominus Rex.
Not only do we learn that this is one of Hammond's plans for expansions to the park, but the dinosaur is already built and ready for action. The buyer, he can't believe it, and he wants to see it immediately. The group moves to the cage, and Dr. Wu gives us all the info on the Indominus Rex. Lex stays in the back because of her anxiety. The Verizon investor and buyer are thrilled. Owen is upset with the treatment of the animal, just like he was in the actual film. Cut back to more park action with the kids, and they're not getting along, blah, blah, blah. Now, Lex is conflicted about signing over the park. She knows she doesn't want to run it, but she's also uneasy about letting these men do whatever they want with these animals. Owen is there for some of Lex's debating, and while they don't agree on the raptor situation, at least they can both agree that the Indominus Rex is a bad idea. We see the younger brother isn't having the best of times, and the older brother suggests that they go backstage, off-road, whatever, but not on a gyroscope that definitely wouldn't be allowed to operate outside of its designated boundaries. Maybe they could get deeper into the park by taking one of those little boats to the riverbank. There doesn't seem to be any boundaries there. Meanwhile, the I-Rex exhibit is open, and the first group of visitors are there to see it, but the I-Rex isn't there. They can't see it anywhere. This scene would play out similar to the movie. Lex is in the command center watching the whole thing. The group of guests watch in horror as the I-Rex eats some of the park's employees and then starts its rampage toward the main part of the park. Owen still douses himself in gasoline because that was one of the only smart things that happened in the movie. Dr. Wu orders immediate shutdown of the park. Lex is horrified, the buyer is furious. We see the different parts of the park shutting down and all the guests are upset and disappointed. Park security is deployed to hunt down and detain the escaped I-Rex. In the control room, we learn that all attractions have been safely evacuated. But on one screen, we can see that there are still two guests running around in the park, the two brothers. Lex sees this and is completely panicked. In her mind, all the nightmares of running from dinosaurs in the first park rush back to her. She screams, "Someone has to get them! Someone has to get those kids!" Dr. Wu tells her they don't have anyone to send. All security are out hunting for the I-Rex. And notice that we've taken out the roles of the two mission control employees because they are 100% useless to our story, and they're not even funny. Lex is distressed. She looks up at the screen and sees the two boys in the wild of the park. She takes a deep breath, and with total fear in her eyes, she says, "Fine, I'll do it." Everyone is shocked. Owen arrives and tries to talk her out of it, but she can't bear to let what happened to her happen to anyone else. She's going after those two boys. Owen decides to join her. This choice from Lex is wonderful, it's exciting and powerful because we know that she doesn't want to step 1 foot inside of that park, but she's willing to do it to save some kids she doesn't even know or have any relation to. The fun and games portion of the movie would be Lex and Owen searching for the boys trying to find their way back, park security and guests being attacked by different dinos, Lex and Owen finding the boys, the raptors being used in the hunt for the Indominus Rex, and I don't think that the raptors should turn on Owen. It adds unnecessary elements to our running time. If you like the raptor attack sequence and you want to see it done better, go watch the long grass scene from The Lost World. Yeah, that's right. I just praised The Lost World. Post your hate comments down below.
You're crazy.
We get to the final scene of the movie. The Indominus Rex is chasing Lex, Owen, and the boys through the main concourse. The Raptors come in again and try to tear the I-Rex apart while Owen backs them up with his rifle. The younger brother says, "They can't win, they're not big enough." Lex is terrified once again, but she has an idea. She sees a security jeep, runs over to it, and looks in the back. She is pleased with what she sees, but we do not see what it is. She tells the boys to run away as fast as they can. She grabs a park map from a nearby kiosk. Cut to her driving. She busts through a chain link fence, and now she's in an alley behind some of the dinosaur cages. She looks at the map, looks at one of the big metal doors, and says, "This is it." She gets out of the jeep, looks into the security camera, and pleads with Dr. Wu to open the door. Back to the fight. The I-Rex has taken out 2 of the raptors. Back to the jeep. Dr. Wu opens the metal door, and Lex reaches into the back of the jeep and pulls something out. We hear giant footsteps coming towards the open door, and a Tyrannosaurus Rex can now be seen approaching. Lex reveals the road flare in her hand. She ignites it and looks towards the T-Rex. Colin Trevorrow has already confirmed that this is the same T-Rex from the first film. I can't think of a more emotionally gripping and triumphant moment in this movie than to have Lex fucking Murphy momentarily overcome her anxiety and face all of her fears personified in the same giant reptile that terrorized her 20 years ago. What a moment! What a victory for our main character!
Yas queen, yas queen!
To me, this is much more satisfying than what we got. The scene with Claire, as it is in the film right now, is just plain fan service. How does Claire even know that the road flare will work? In my version, the road flare isn't just fan service, but knowledge that our main character would actually have. She saw this technique being used when she was a young girl.
Jurassic World is a natural sequel to Jurassic Park. John Hammond wanted to set out to create a theme park, a place that people could come and experience these creations that he had, brought back to life.
And I agree with that. But Jurassic World, as it was delivered to us, just wasn't very good. And the self-referential humor is one of the big nails in the coffin for me.
That first park was legit. I have a lot of respect for it. They didn't need these genetic hybrids. They just needed dinosaurs, real dinosaurs. That's kind of
This moment in the movie wants you to say, oh, it's okay that this one isn't as good because they know that they'll never be able to do anything better than Jurassic Park.
You can't make a movie as good as the original and make a sequel to Jurassic Park. You just can't do it.
Yes, you can. If you try. What if after Star Wars they'd said, you know what, you can't make a movie that good, so let's just do another movie, whatever, we'll throw in some characters and space battles and kids will love it and it'll be a hit and 13-year-olds will have fun with it and it'll be fine.
The rest of my version plays out roughly the same, except there are no bro nods between the raptor and the fucking T-Rex. These are dangerous predators. They are not bros. They do not get along. Do you want your next movie to have absolutely no stakes or danger?
My biggest challenge in any movie is making the humans feel real and people that you can recognize and like someone you know. If we can do that, then you're gonna care whether or not they get eaten.
The assistant girl didn't get much screen time before she died. The only reason her death affected me was because I felt that it was a terribly unearned death. At least in the first film, you laughed when the lawyer was eaten because he was the asshole that abandoned the kids in the Jeep. The brothers ran away from this poor girl who's just trying to do her job, and she gets one of the most gruesome deaths in the whole movie? I mean, even the villain gets an off-screen death. Good Lord.
Jesus Christ.
What did you think about my version of Jurassic World? Do you think it would have been better? Do you think it would have been worse? Let me know in the comments below. I would honestly love to know what you guys think. If you like this video, consider giving it a thumbs up and sharing it. That would really help us out a lot. And don't forget to subscribe and follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram so you can get all of our updates on new videos. Thank you guys so much for watching. My name is Justin, and I hope that you have a great day.
And remember, if something chases you,
This is an incredibly insensitive and tasteless thing to say in this world. Even if she is joking, people were actually eaten and attacked by dinosaurs in a park. If the kids were visiting New York City, would she say, if you see a hijacked plane flying towards Manhattan,
Jesus Christ.